What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Apologies for getting videos out a little bit later today. Had some technical issues I was dealing with, but we're past those. As you can see, I am back home. It is turkey break for me, so no green screen. You just have this lovely background behind me. But anyway, we're going to be reacting to the college football playoff rankings that came out last night. We're also going to be taking a look at my new college football playoff bracket, as well as New Year's 6 bowl game predictions. The new, especially because I emphasized it, implies that there are some changes, and there are some changes that I have made to my playoff field with certain predictions that I have made for games happening this week. So a little bit of a preview for some predictions coming down the line, but also it's kind of reflective of a prediction I've already made on this channel. But hey, I just got to say thank you for all the support the channel has seen as of late. It does mean a lot to me. If you want to continue to show your support, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. It's the biggest way to help support me. Another huge way is just simply by watching the video, but you can do a lot more: liking, commenting, sharing. Anything that you do to interact with the channel helps us support it, and it means a lot to me. So thank you guys so much for whatever you are willing and able to do. But let's talk about the rankings that we see in front of us here in the that the College Football Playoff Committee put out last night on November 21st. So let's talk about the top four. I think they have the top four right. This is my top four in its entirety. I have Georgia number one. Ohio State just surpassed Michigan at number two, but again, there is not a lot of room between Ohio State and Michigan at 2 and 3. The reason the committee has Ohio State there at 2, and the same reason the committee had Ohio State at 1 to begin a lot of these rankings, was the fact that the Buckeyes' resume stacks up. It's very comparable to almost any resume in the country, and it's better than most resumes across the country as well. Michigan sitting there at number 3, don't have a problem with that. Again, they do have a resume-building win against Penn State and Maryland. Not a bad team either, even though they did give Michigan a fight, and even though Michigan just hasn't really looked as dominant as they have there in the past, or I should say for the most part this season. But the thing that the committee changed, there has not been a lot of change within the top, I'll say 8 all season long, and that is for a very good reason. It's because the teams keep on winning. There is just not a whole lot of chaos. In fact, if you want to go back and take a look at any previous year in terms of upsets and chaos and whatnot, this is one of the least chaotic years in recent history. So the top of the rankings have steadily stayed consistent throughout this year, and there hasn't really been a whole lot of change, but there was a position flip. So now Washington is a team that jumps up into number 4, while Florida State falls down to 5. While I personally have Florida State down at 6 and Oregon above them, you can't really argue it too much, especially because the Seminoles still remain as one of the 5 Power 5 unbeaten teams. And the 6th one, they did rank there. The Liberty Flames are ranked there at 25. So good job by the committee. But it shows that, hey, if Tulane were to slip up this week to UTSA, Liberty is very much a team that can slide into the New Year's 6 bowl game spot. That's what the committee showed us there. They have re-ranked Clemson, which I don't have a problem with there either. NC State is in the rankings again. Don't have a problem. I personally chose to show a little love to the group of 5 in my last poll, and I did rank James Madison still, Toledo in there as well. But I don't really have a problem with these rankings. Again, I think Iowa may be a little bit too high, but not much going there. Anyway, back to the conversation about Washington and Florida State. So the reason that Washington jumped Florida State for the number 4 spot was, according to the committee, everything of what Washington did. Now, obviously, they're going to look at the Jordan Travis injury and say that that is really significant. Obviously, that is has a huge impact on Florida State's season. But Washington, over the second half of this season, has just started to build its resume. It has a win over Oregon. It has a win over Oregon State. It has a win over a lot of other quality teams. It has a win over Utah as well, who you don't see ranked, and I do not believe that the committee got that one right. I believe that Utah still deserves to be ranked, but not going to argue with it too much. I think for the most part, these rankings are pretty good. Now, as we start to get down the line a whole lot more, you still have a lot of contenders in the college football playoff rankings. 1 through 8 are full-blown bona fide contenders, and then Louisville is there at number 10, which still kind of shocking me that Louisville is there at 10, especially with they were able to go on the road, get a win against the Miami Hurricanes, and Missouri had to survive at home against the Florida team that is starting to really slide down, or I guess has slid down over the past couple of weeks. I believe they have like 3 or 4 straight losses, something like that. So a little surprised that Louisville did not jump up to number 9, but that is a team that they need some chaos to happen, that Chaos has not been something that's happened a lot this year. Louisville is going to need it in order to get into the college football playoff. But again, a lot of these things are going to work itself out, and especially with how many contenders are here, that there are a lot of matchups that are going to start to really work themselves out, or at least we think they will. Washington and Oregon likely will work itself out in the Pac-12 championship game, unless somehow Oregon State were to pull off the upset against Oregon, and then Arizona beats Arizona State, which would then send Arizona, I believe, to the Pac-12 title game. But in all likelihood, it will be Washington and Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. Again, Oregon's going to have to get by their rivals in Oregon State there first. Ohio State, Michigan, we all know that is going to work itself out this week in the game. Georgia, Alabama, they still have to play in the SEC championship game. And then Florida State and Louisville still have to play in the ACC title game. So there are a lot of matchups, especially during championship week, that will work itself out, that will eliminate some contenders from the field. At least that's the hope for the College Football Playoff Committee, make their job a little bit easier. But it's never easy to rank teams in college football. I think the committee has done a fairly nice job all season long. Me and them pretty one-to-one here, especially this week, at least when you look at the top-tier college football playoff contenders. Again, a little bit of switching around when you look at my poll compared to theirs. But again, I think the committee's done a very nice job all season long. All right, let's dive on into the college football playoff bracket. For the most part, it has remained the same. I still do have Georgia at number 1, taking the All-State Sugar Bowl. Now, for the longest time, I have had the Michigan Wolverines sitting there at the number 2 spot, and they're my preseason pick to win the national championship. They have started to give me some pause. It's the first time all year where I've really felt like, is this Michigan team really going to win the national title, especially with the way that a lot of other contenders are playing right now, including the new team that I've put at number 2, their Big Ten rival in the Ohio State Buckeyes. I have predicted Ohio State to beat Michigan in the game. I think it's a combination of Ohio State starting to play really, really well, Michigan starting to slide. Now, it wouldn't surprise me to see Michigan win the game at all. Just wouldn't surprise me at all. And honestly, there are probably a lot more ways for Michigan to win that game than there are for Ohio State to win that game here coming up in just a couple of days. However, when I take a look at it, I think Ohio State's starting to play really, really well. I believe they have all the pieces they need, and they have fixed the thing that has plagued them over the past couple of years. They've fixed that run defense, and they have fixed allowing the big plays. I think a combination of those things are going to lead Ohio State to win in the game, and it'll lead them to the Rose Bowl there as well, which they will get left with. Keeping here at number 3, little preview for a preview prediction coming out later today, I am keeping the Florida State Seminoles. Yes, the Jordan Travis injury is very, very severe. However, I think this is a Florida State team that has a ton of playmakers, and much like with the conversation with Ohio State entering this season, maybe much like the conversation with Carson Beck entering the season as well, there are a ton of weapons on that Florida State team, and all Tate Rodemaker or whoever happens to play quarterback has to do is be good enough. That's what Kyle McCord's been all year. That's what Carson Beck has been all year, and at times, those two quarterbacks have gone above and beyond. Now, if Tate Rodemaker is going to go above and beyond, hey, Florida State's absolutely going to take it. He doesn't need to, though. That's a really, really good defense and an offense that has a lot of good playmakers. So Florida State sitting here at number 3. Little early preview prediction for what I think is going to happen in that game against Florida, again, as I start to project outwards a little bit. And then I got Oregon sitting here at number 4, again, projecting outwards. I've already picked the Oregon Ducks to go beat their rival in the Oregon State Beavers, and I do think that they are the better football team than Washington, even though they already have a head-to-head loss against them in Seattle. I think if Oregon and Washington were to face in the Pac-12 title game, I believe they are going to be getting their revenge and into the college football playoff. So, hey, here is your college football playoff field. Again, you can swap out Oregon for Washington. You can swap out Ohio State for Michigan. There again, still are so many contenders. Alabama could get in if they win the SEC. If Texas wins the Big 12, there is a striking conversation for them to reach it as well. Now, the only thing that may need some chaos to have happen is for Louisville to break into the field of 4. There is going to need to be a lot of chaos that happens in order for them to break in. But as long as they went out and they take care of business, they put themselves in a fairly good position as well. Let's move on to the national semifinals. I still have Georgia making the national semifinal. And then for Ohio State, Florida State, it is a different matchup than I have had in weeks past. I usually have had Michigan here, and Michigan has been my team that I've picked to win the national title for the entirety of the season up until this week. Again, it goes back to my prediction for the Ohio State and Michigan game coming up. I just don't see the Buckeyes and Ryan Day losing 3 straight. Also, the combination of things I have mentioned earlier. I'll go with the Buckeyes to beat Florida State. I think that would be a very close, very competitive game if we end up getting it, but I think the Jordan Travis injury was really going to hurt Florida State, especially if they're able to make the college football playoff. With him being done for the year, I think Ohio State's defense will do enough to slow down Tate Rodemaker in that offense and make the national championship game. And here we go, a rematch in the national championship game of an absolute classic semifinal from last year. The Georgia Bulldogs are playing like the best team in the country right now. And even if the Michigan Wolverines were to be where the Ohio State Buckeyes are, I would still be picking Georgia to win the national championship game. They're really starting to round in to form. This is the team that's finally starting to become dominant like they have in so many years prior. And it's what's helped them win straight, or I should say 2 straight national titles, and right now I have them winning a 3rd one with the field of 4 that I am projecting at least moving forward. Again, there's a lot that can change if Michigan's able to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're going to be right back in the field. If Oregon were to slip up, if Florida State were to slip up, there's still a lot of change that could come in my college football playoff bracket. But let's take a look at my New Year's 6 bowl game projections. I still have the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Penn State Nittany Lions sitting here for the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Penn State is a team that likely is going to win out here, barring anything spectacular that Michigan State may be able to pull off in the season finale, but I still got Penn State there winning that game. And then Alabama, of course, probably going to be able to beat the Auburn Tigers, although again, the Iron Bowl, you can never count them out. And then they get into the SEC championship game. Now it'd be really hard to keep the Alabama Crimson Tide out if they were to beat Georgia and win the SEC. However, there are scenarios where yes, it does happen. If Texas, for instance, were to go out and win the Big 12, and it's between Texas and Bama on who gets that last spot, Texas is probably going to get in because of that head-to-head there, right? So, again, fascinating conversations can happen, but the Alabama Crimson Tide, whether or not they win or lose that SEC championship game, I believe they will be in a New Year's 6 bowl game as long as they take care of business against the Auburn Tigers this upcoming week. The Missouri Tigers have been what a feel-good story this year. Harrison Mevis did it again for them this past week. It was a struggle game against the Florida Gators. You needed to convert, what was it, a 4th and 15, 4th and 17, something like that. Pass complete to Luther Burden, and then Mevis later down the line was able to do it. They survived against the Florida Gators, and as long as you take care of business against the Arkansas Razorbacks, you're going to solidify your spot, at least in my opinion, in a New Year's 6 bowl game. And then Tulane sitting right here as the Group of 5 champion to play the Missouri Tigers in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I think this would be a very intriguing matchup if it happens, but again, Tulane has a lot of landmines on that schedule still as well. You have UTSA coming up, and then in all likelihood, if you're able to get past UTSA, either a rematch with UTSA or a date with SMU in the conference title game, which would be a very interesting conversation to have. Any one of those 2 teams could still break into the Group of 5 spot here in a New Year's 6 bowl game. But also the committee showed that Liberty, hey, they're right there. The Liberty Flames are a team that can still break into a New Year's 6 bowl game, as the committee did rank them at number 25, undefeated in Conference USA, could have an undefeated regular season. They're already in the Conference USA Championship there as well. Let's dive on into the Capital One Orange Bowl. This is where the Ohio State Buckeyes have been for so long, but because of my prediction, again, just a prediction and projection, that Ohio State is able to beat Michigan, does relinquish Michigan down here to the Capital One Orange Bowl. I think in all likelihood, if Michigan is able to win that game, you're going to secure your spot in a college football playoff spot. Same thing if Ohio State were to win that game, which is the way that I'm projecting it to happen right now. Now, if Michigan loses that game, do they still have a shot to get to the college football playoff? I think it would need a lot of chaos, but I don't consider it out of the realm of possibility. However, I think it's more possible that if Michigan wins the game, that Ohio State has a better case to vie for that number 4 spot, to vie for an at-large position because of the way that their non-conference schedule slates out. But the way that I'm projecting things right now, I think Ohio State's going to go in there and win the game, and then that'll put Michigan here in the Capital One Orange Bowl. Again, if you want to flip those two teams, I have no problem with that whatsoever, but one of those two teams, Ohio State, Michigan, will get in the college football playoff, and the latter will be in the Capital One Orange Bowl facing the Louisville Cardinals. Now, the Louisville, you got Kentucky this week, then you got the ACC championship game. Likely solidified their spot in the New Year's Six bowl game already, given the way the rest of the ACC has played out, with North Carolina starting to fall, and then Duke losing some games that they shouldn't. Now, NC State, Clemson are ranked, but I don't think they're going to catch up to the Louisville Cardinals. I think they will be a team here in the Capital One Orange Bowl, and then this matchup has not changed either. I really honestly want to see this matchup, so kind of selfishly, but also projecting outwards, I do have this matchup in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. I think Texas falls just short. They win the Big 12, but they fall just short of a New Year's Six bowl game. The injury to Jonathan Brooks definitely hurts them in trying to vie for that spot as well. However, with Quinn Ewers and all the other weapons, Texas is still a phenomenal team. And then Washington, probably going to end up winning that game in the Apple Cup against Washington State. But then you move forward in the Pac-12 title game, especially if they play Oregon. I think Washington is in some real trouble, even if it is Arizona that they see in the Pac-12 title game again this season. That definitely could pose a lot of problems for this Washington team. Arizona gave them troubles when they played earlier this season, but I think this would be such a fun matchup. Quinn Ewers versus Michael Penix, and the wide receiver groups that both these two teams have, the defensive fronts that both of these two teams have. It would be an electric atmosphere in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, that's for sure. But I'll give you one final look at the college football playoff bracket. Again, because of the way that I am predicting some games this week, I have updated my college football playoff bracket to reflect my predictions that I am making this week. So, hey, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Please share all of your thoughts. And remember, play hard. Or I should say, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. Florida State. That preview prediction video coming your way here very shortly. Goodbye.